The ranger found two twins in the taiga. They howled from loneliness. Ivan Petrov had been a ranger in the Siberian taiga for over 20 years. He knew these forests better than he knew his own home. The taiga was beautiful but unforgiving, a vast wilderness that stretched for hundreds of miles with dense pine trees, frozen rivers, and snow that seemed to go on forever. Ivan had seen all sorts of things in his years: wild animals, lost travelers, and even the occasional rare event that few believed could happen in the forest. But nothing had prepared him for the sound he heard that icy evening. It had started quietly, a faint sound carried on the bitter wind. At first, Ivan thought it was a wolf howling or perhaps a lonely fox. But the cry was different, sharper, more urgent, and filled with a kind of sadness that made his chest tighten. Ivan stopped where he was, his boots crunching on the hard snow, and listened. The sound came again, closer this time, echoing between the tall, shadowy trees. It was a sound of loneliness, a sound that did not belong to the wilderness. He felt a chill run down his spine, not from the cold but from something deeper, a feeling that he could not ignore. Ivan had learned long ago that the forest rarely lied. If a sound was unusual, it usually meant danger or someone in need. He checked his gear quickly: flashlight, radio, first aid kit, a small backpack with extra food, and tightened the straps of his coat. The temperature had dropped far below freezing, and the wind blew snow in sharp, icy streaks that stung his face. Yet he could not ignore those cries. Something human called to him from the forest. As he walked toward the sound, each step became more difficult. The snow was deep in some places, and the uneven ground threatened to trip him. Pine trees, tall and dark, created walls on either side, and the forest seemed to swallow every trace of sound except for the desperate cries that led him forward. Ivan called out softly, "Hello. Is someone there?" His voice sounded small against the vastness of the taiga, but he hoped it would reach whoever or whatever was out there. After a while, Ivan began to notice signs that someone had been in the forest. Small footprints, partially covered by new snow, led deeper into the trees. They were too small for an adult, and they moved in pairs, side by side. His heart raced. Whoever was here had been alone for some time, and in these harsh conditions, alone could mean danger. He quickened his pace, but carefully, aware that sudden movements could frighten whoever was out there. The wind blew stronger, and snowflakes swirled around him like tiny needles. Ivan's experience told him that traveling at night in the taiga was dangerous. Wolves often followed humans when they were weak, and the cold could be deadly if someone was not prepared. Yet, despite the danger, he could not stop. The cries had grown louder again, and now there was no mistaking it. They were the voices of children. Their high-pitched howls were raw with fear and loneliness, and they made Ivan's chest ache. He thought of the countless times he had rescued lost travelers, but children alone in the wilderness were far more vulnerable. His mind raced through possibilities. How long had they been out here? What had they eaten? Were they injured? And most importantly, were they alive? Each thought pushed him forward. The forest seemed endless, and the snow seemed to grow deeper with every step. Ivan's boots sank into it, making progress slow, but he kept moving, guided by the sound of those cries. Sometimes he thought he saw shadows moving between the trees, and his heart would leap, fearing for the children's safety. Other times the forest would fall silent for a moment, and the emptiness was almost as frightening as the sound. But then the cries would return, more urgent than before, pulling him deeper into the taiga. Hours seemed to pass, though Ivan had no way to measure time. The forest was dark except for the pale light of the moon reflecting off the snow. The cold was harsh, biting at his face and hands, but he ignored it. His focus was entirely on finding the source of the cries. Every so often he would call out, trying to reassure the children that he meant no harm. "It's okay, I'm coming. Stay where you are if you can hear me," he whispered, hoping they understood. Finally, as dawn began to break, casting a soft gray light across the forest, Ivan saw movement ahead. Two small figures huddled together under a fallen tree, their tiny bodies shaking from cold. Their faces were red and streaked with dirt, and their eyes wide with fear, staring at him as though he were a ghost. Ivan froze for a moment, letting them see he was not a threat. Then he slowly lowered himself to their level, speaking softly and gently. "Hello, I'm Ivan. I'm here to help you. Can you stand up?" The children did not move at first. Their fear was overwhelming. The girl clutched the boy tightly, and the boy held her hand as if letting go would mean the end of everything. Ivan could see the layers of frost on their clothes and the thinness of their coats. He realized immediately that they had been out here for days, maybe longer, and had survived against incredible odds. His heart ached at their loneliness. He knelt down and extended a hand carefully, showing them he meant no harm. The children hesitated, but the girl finally let go of the boy's hand just enough to take his hand. The boy followed a moment later, their trust beginning to form slowly, like fragile ice cracking under the weight of warmth. Ivan wrapped his coat around them, trying to share whatever heat he could, and spoke quietly. "You are safe now. I will not let anything happen to you." Through broken words and gestures, Ivan learned that the children had no idea how they ended up so deep in the forest. They remembered fragments, a village far away, a family they had lived with, but the details were fuzzy. Hunger and fear had made everything else a blur. Ivan's heart ached for them. He could see the resilience in their eyes, but he also saw the deep loneliness that had made them howl into the night. It was not just the cold that threatened them. It was the terrifying emptiness of being alone in such a vast place. Ivan knew he had to get them out quickly, but he also knew the forest would not give up easily. The taiga was dangerous, especially for children. Wolves roamed in the shadows, rivers were frozen but treacherous, and every step could hide a new challenge. But Ivan's years of experience told him that careful planning, patience, and courage could see them through. He adjusted his pack, secured the children close to him, and began the long journey back to safety. The forest, once a place of mystery and fear, now held a new purpose for Ivan. Every snow-covered tree, every frozen stream, every shadow seemed to guide him forward, as if the taiga itself wanted him to succeed. The children's small hands clutched his coat tightly, their trust growing with each cautious step. Ivan spoke to them softly, telling them stories of the forest, of how animals survived, and how people could find courage in the darkest of places. The howls that had drawn him here slowly faded, replaced by quiet whimpers and then silent observation. That day, the forest seemed alive in a different way. Ivan felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but he also felt hope. Hope that these children, so small and fragile, could make it out alive. Hope that the loneliness that had filled their howls would be replaced with warmth, safety, and care. And hope that the taiga, which could be so harsh and unyielding, could also witness acts of bravery and compassion that would not be forgotten. By the time the sun rose fully, painting the snow in soft gold and pink, Ivan had made a silent promise to himself. He would get these children out of the forest, no matter what it took. The path ahead was uncertain, and the dangers were real, but he would not let fear stop him. The howls that had brought him here had a new meaning now, a call for help that he had answered, and a story of survival that was just beginning. Ivan moved carefully through the dense forest, keeping a steady pace so that the twins could follow him without falling behind. The snow was heavy, and every step required effort. The children were small and frail, their clothes thin against the freezing wind, and their tiny bodies shivering with cold. Ivan could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him more heavily with every passing minute. He had seen many lost travelers before, but children alone in the taiga were far more vulnerable. Their survival was fragile, and one mistake could cost them dearly. The boy, who Ivan learned was named Alexei, clung to his sister's hand tightly. The girl, Anya, kept her head down, her eyes wide with fear, and her small mouth trembling as if she might cry at any moment. They were exhausted, and their energy was almost gone, but Ivan knew he had to keep them moving. Every so often he would stop and squat down to talk to them softly, giving them a small piece of encouragement. "You are doing well, just a little further. Stay close to me." His voice was gentle but firm, carrying the authority of someone who had faced the forest many times before. As they moved, Ivan noticed the signs of how the children had survived on their own. Small, shallow holes in the snow suggested they had tried to dig for roots or small plants. Broken twigs and chewed pine cones hinted at their attempts to find food. Ivan's heart tightened as he saw the evidence of their struggle. He knew that in this freezing environment, even small mistakes could lead to serious consequences. He carried a small pack of rations for emergencies, but he realized that it would take more than food. He needed to get them to warmth, shelter, and safety as soon as possible. The twins moved cautiously, their small feet sinking into the snow with each step. Alexei occasionally stumbled, and Ivan would reach down immediately to help him up, careful not to startle him. Anya, though more cautious, kept glancing nervously at the shadows between the trees. She seemed haunted by something she couldn't fully explain, and her eyes would sometimes fill with tears that she quickly wiped away. Ivan realized that they had not just been physically alone, but emotionally as well. Their howls in the forest had been more than cries for food or warmth. They had been cries for human connection. The cold wind cut through the forest like a knife, and Ivan wrapped his own coat tightly around the twins whenever he could. He moved slowly, making sure that they were not left behind. He spoke to them continuously, telling stories of the forest to keep their minds focused and to distract them from the cold. He spoke of wolves that roamed these woods, of the birds that survived the harsh winter, and of the small animals that cleverly found food in the snow. The stories were simple, but they seemed to comfort the twins, giving them a sense of understanding and hope. At one point, Anya tripped on a hidden root under the snow and fell face first into the white blanket that covered the forest floor. Her small body trembled as tears formed in her eyes. Alexei shouted in panic, and Ivan moved instantly, lifting her gently and brushing the snow off her face. "It's okay, Anya. You're safe now, see. Nothing is broken, we'll be fine." The children clung to him, and for a moment Ivan felt a deep connection forming. They were no longer just lost children in the forest. They were survivors who had found someone who cared enough to guide them through the danger. The forest around them was quiet except for the occasional sound of the wind brushing through the trees. At times, Ivan thought he saw movement in the distance, shadows that might be animals or perhaps other wanderers, but he did not panic. He had to stay calm, because if he showed fear, the twins would sense it and panic could set in. He reminded himself that the best way to protect them was to remain steady, to keep moving, and to show them that there was hope. As the hours passed, Ivan found a small stream partially frozen over. He knew that water was essential for survival, and he stopped to allow the twins to drink. The water was cold, but Ivan made sure it was safe before letting them sip. He used this pause to rest himself as well, stretching his legs and taking a deep breath of the cold, crisp air. He looked at the twins, their faces pale but alert, and felt a renewed determination. He could not fail them. The children began to speak in broken sentences, trying to explain where they had come from. Their memories were unclear, clouded by hunger, fear, and cold. They remembered a village, their home, and their parents, but the details were hazy. Ivan listened patiently, asking gentle questions, never pushing too hard. Each small detail they shared helped him understand their journey, but also made him realize how long they had been alone. Weeks, perhaps, wandering through the unforgiving taiga with nothing but each other for comfort. Despite their exhaustion, Ivan noticed the spark of resilience in their eyes. The children had survived against impossible odds, and though weak and frightened, they were still alive. He felt a sense of admiration for them, mixed with urgency. He knew that survival required careful planning now. He would need to keep them warm, fed, and moving steadily. Every step he took was calculated, every choice deliberate, as he guided them through the snow-laden forest. Night began to fall again, and the forest grew even colder. Ivan knew that traveling in darkness would be dangerous, but he could not risk stopping completely. He gathered the children close, wrapped them in his coat, and used his flashlight sparingly to light their path. They moved slowly, the snow now knee-deep in places, and Ivan made sure to take small breaks whenever necessary. During these moments, he shared stories again, telling them about the stars, the moon, and the small miracles of nature that could be found even in the harshest conditions. Alexei and Anya began to trust him more as the hours passed. Their fear slowly turned into cautious hope. They listened to his stories, responded with quiet questions, and even managed small smiles when he made light jokes to keep their spirits up. Ivan understood that survival was not just physical, it was also emotional. The loneliness they had endured had been as dangerous as the cold, and now, for the first time in weeks, they had someone to rely on. At one point, the twins noticed the footprints they had left in the snow behind them. They asked Ivan if the forest would ever forget them. He smiled gently and said, "The forest remembers everything, but you will leave it safely. You are not lost anymore. You have me with you, and I will take care of you until you are safe." His words seemed to comfort them, and for a moment the fear in their eyes softened. As dawn approached again, the forest began to change. The gray light of early morning revealed the endless expanse of snow and trees, a silent reminder of the harsh world they were crossing. Ivan's legs were sore, his body tired, but he pushed on. The children's survival depended on him, and he refused to give in to exhaustion. Every step was a small victory, every small movement forward a sign of hope. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ivan saw a faint sign of human presence in the distance, the outlines of a cabin or ranger station, barely visible through the trees and snow. He felt a surge of relief and pointed it out to the twins. Their faces lit up, a mix of disbelief and hope. Ivan encouraged them, telling them to hold on just a little longer. The warmth of civilization, safety, and food was almost within reach, but he knew they still had to be careful until they were fully out of the forest. By the time they reached the edge of the clearing, Ivan could see smoke rising from a small chimney, a sign of warmth and life. The twins' small hands were frozen, their faces pale, but their eyes shone with relief. Ivan knew the danger was not entirely gone. They would still need care, food, and rest, but the immediate threat of the wilderness was behind them. For the first time in weeks, the children were safe, and Ivan felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that he had guided them through one of the most dangerous forests in the world. After what felt like an endless journey through the frozen taiga, Ivan finally led the twins, Alexei and Anya, to a small clearing where he knew a ranger station stood. The building was modest, made of weathered logs with smoke curling from its chimney, promising warmth and safety. For a moment the children just stared, blinking in disbelief. They had spent days, maybe weeks, wandering through the snow-covered forest, surviving on scraps of food and their own courage. The sight of human habitation was almost too much to comprehend. Ivan gently guided them closer. "This is where you will be safe now," he said softly. "There are people here who can help you. You are not alone anymore." Alexei's small hand gripped his coat tightly, and Anya clung to her brother. Their faces were pale, cheeks chapped from the cold, and their tiny bodies were stiff with exhaustion. Ivan's heart ached at the sight. He had faced harsh winters, wild animals, and many dangers in the forest, but nothing struck him as sharply as the image of these two children, barely clinging to life, finally reaching safety. As they approached the ranger station, a figure appeared in the doorway, another ranger who had been on duty through the long night. The man's eyes widened when he saw Ivan and the children emerging from the forest. He hurried forward, bringing blankets, hot tea, and food. Ivan carefully lifted the twins one at a time, wrapping them in warm layers and helping them inside. The warmth hit them immediately, and they shivered less, their eyes wide as they took in the lights and the smell of cooked food. The ranger inside prepared a small bed for them near the fire. Ivan helped the children sit down and offered them a warm drink. The liquid soothed their throats, and slowly they began to relax. For the first time in weeks, they were able to breathe without the constant fear of being lost or cold. Ivan sat with them, keeping his hand on their shoulders, feeling the tension in their tiny bodies slowly ease. He watched as the twins sipped the tea, their small hands trembling with the effort of holding the cups, but their eyes brightened with every warming sip. As they rested, Ivan listened patiently while the children tried to explain their ordeal. Their words were broken and incomplete, fragments of a story clouded by fear, hunger, and exhaustion. They spoke of a village far away, of a home they had lived in, and a family they could barely remember. The details were unclear, but the message was obvious. They had been utterly alone in the forest for days, perhaps even weeks. Ivan's chest tightened as he realized just how resilient these children had been, surviving without proper food, clothing, or guidance. The twins' eyes sometimes wandered to the windows, staring at the vast snow-covered forest that had both threatened and sustained them. "We were so cold," Anya whispered, her voice breaking. "And we were so hungry." Alexei nodded, his small lips trembling. Ivan placed a reassuring hand on each of their heads. "You survived because you were brave, and now you will be cared for. You are safe." Despite the warmth of the station, Ivan knew their struggle was not yet over. Their bodies were weak from malnutrition and exposure, and their minds carried the weight of fear and loneliness. Over the next few hours, he helped the medical team assess their condition. Frostbite had started on their fingers and toes, and their energy levels were dangerously low. They needed rest, proper nutrition, and medical attention to recover fully. Ivan stayed close, knowing that the presence of a familiar face was just as important as food and blankets. The children listened as Ivan spoke softly about the forest, about its dangers and its beauty. He wanted them to understand that the taiga, though harsh, had been part of their survival. It had tested them in ways few could imagine, and yet they had endured. His stories were not just about animals or trees. They were about resilience, courage, and the quiet strength that had kept them alive. Alexei and Anya listened with rapt attention, sometimes asking questions, other times just staring into the fire as if trying to process everything that had happened. As the night deepened, Ivan realized that the twins had begun to trust him completely. Their earlier fear and suspicion had faded, replaced with a quiet sense of safety. They allowed him to help them eat, drink, and change into warmer clothes. They even responded to his gentle encouragements with small smiles, moments that felt monumental after the long days of survival. Ivan felt a surge of relief and pride. These children had faced unimaginable challenges, yet they were still remarkably strong. The next morning, Ivan helped the children take small steps outside the station under supervision. The snow was still thick, and the wind still cold, but the sun shone brightly, casting a soft light over the forest. The twins marveled at the landscape, the beauty of the snow, and the sounds of birds returning after the long winter nights. Ivan guided them carefully, teaching them about safe paths, how to recognize animal tracks, and how to avoid dangers in the forest. Even in the warmth of safety, he wanted them to understand the lessons the taiga had taught them. Throughout the following days, Ivan continued to monitor their recovery closely. He coordinated with medical staff to ensure they received proper nutrition and care. He spent time talking to them, asking them to share memories, and listening patiently when they tried to explain what had happened in the days before he found them. The children spoke of hunger, cold nights, and the fear of being alone, but they also spoke of hope. A hope that had been sustained by each other's presence, by their courage, and perhaps by some quiet instinct that had led them to survive. As their strength returned, Ivan noticed a remarkable change. The twins became more curious, asking questions about the forest, about animals, and about the world beyond the taiga. They laughed softly at his stories, and small moments of play began to appear in their interactions. They began to eat more confidently, walk with steadier steps, and respond with smiles rather than fearful glances. Ivan felt a deep satisfaction. They were no longer just survivors, they were beginning to live again. One evening, as the sun set behind the forest, Ivan sat with the twins near the fire. "You were very brave," he said. "Not many children could have survived what you went through. You should be proud of yourselves." Alexei leaned against his shoulder, and Anya rested her head on his arm. Their eyes were heavy with sleep, but they shone with trust and recognition. Ivan understood that the journey through the forest had changed them forever, but he also knew that they had the strength to heal and grow. The story of their survival began to spread through the local village. People were amazed by the tale of two children alone in the taiga, surviving against freezing temperatures, hunger, and the solitude of the vast forest. Ivan answered questions carefully, focusing on the courage of the twins rather than the danger itself. He emphasized the lessons of survival, the importance of human connection, and the resilience that had kept them alive. The village began to rally around them, offering support, food, and a safe place to stay as they continued to recover. Throughout this time, Ivan remained a constant presence. He became more than just a rescuer. He became a guide, a protector, and a trusted friend. The twins leaned on him not just for physical safety, but for reassurance, comfort, and a sense of stability they had not known for weeks. Ivan realized that survival was about more than food, clothing, and warmth. It was about restoring trust, hope, and human connection. By the end of the week, Alexei and Anya were stronger, their eyes brighter, and their steps more confident. They still remembered the forest, its dangers, and the nights they had spent alone, but they also remembered Ivan, the man who had listened to their cries, guided them to safety, and shown them that there was kindness and care in the world. The bond that had formed between them was deep and lasting, forged through shared struggle and the quiet strength of human compassion. Ivan knew that the next steps would involve returning the twins to their family or finding a permanent safe home, but for now, the immediate danger had passed. The taiga, which had once seemed endless and unforgiving, had become a backdrop to an incredible story of survival, courage, and hope. The twins had faced one of the harshest environments on Earth and emerged alive, changed, and stronger because of it. With the immediate danger behind them, Ivan began the next stage of the twins' journey, returning them to a safe environment where they could heal fully. Though the ranger station provided warmth and care, it was never meant to be a permanent home. The children, Alexei and Anya, needed stability, food, and guidance from people who could support them long-term. Ivan knew that finding the right place was just as important as keeping them alive in the forest. He coordinated with local authorities and social workers to ensure that every step of the process would be handled with care and sensitivity. The twins were still fragile, both physically and emotionally. They had survived weeks alone in the Siberian taiga, and the trauma of those experiences lingered. Their movements were careful, their eyes wary of sudden noises, and their laughter was tentative, as if they were unsure it was safe to feel joy. Ivan understood this completely. Survival had required constant vigilance, and letting down their guard was difficult. He encouraged them gently, helping them understand that the world outside the forest, though different and sometimes confusing, could also be kind and safe. The first stop was the local village, where medical staff could provide more thorough care. Alexei and Anya were examined carefully. Doctors treated minor frostbite on their fingers and toes, checked their nutrition levels, and ensured that any lingering effects of cold exposure were addressed. The twins, though shy and nervous, allowed Ivan to stay close. His presence was reassuring, a link to the past week of survival, but now also a bridge to safety and recovery. He stayed with them, holding their hands during examinations and whispering encouragement when they seemed scared. Once the medical needs were addressed, the next challenge was finding them a permanent home. Their parents had been missing or separated from them, and authorities were unsure whether the family could be located. In the meantime, social workers arranged for a foster family in the village to care for the twins. Ivan accompanied them, helping the children understand what was happening. He explained gently, "These people will take care of you. You can stay here while we try to find your family. You are safe, and you are not alone." The twins clung to his hands tightly, their trust in him stronger than ever. Settling into the new home was not easy. The twins were shy and quiet, hesitant to interact with their new surroundings. Every sound, every movement reminded them of the forest. Nights were the hardest. They would wake up and cling to each other, whispering about shadows or cold winds they remembered. The foster parents were patient, providing comfort and routine, but Ivan's presence was still the most important source of reassurance. He visited often, spending hours talking to them, telling stories and helping them slowly adjust to life outside the forest. Over time, the twins began to show signs of recovery. They started to eat more confidently, play with small toys, and explore the safe surroundings of their foster home. Ivan encouraged small adventures, walks through the village, visits to nearby forests during the day, to help them reconnect with nature in a safe way. He explained the difference between the dangerous, frozen taiga they had survived in and the safer areas nearby. These experiences helped the children build confidence and a sense of control, slowly replacing the fear that had dominated their lives. As the weeks passed, the bond between the twins and Ivan deepened. They trusted him completely, seeking his guidance and comfort whenever they felt unsure. Alexei would often run to Ivan first thing in the morning, while Anya would sit quietly beside him during meals, drawing comfort from his presence. Ivan encouraged the foster parents to involve the twins in small responsibilities, helping in the kitchen, caring for plants, or feeding small animals. These tasks helped the children regain a sense of purpose and normalcy, teaching them that life outside the forest could be predictable, kind, and safe. The village community was captivated by the twins' story. Their survival in the Siberian taiga had become a local legend, a tale of courage and resilience. People visited the foster home to offer gifts, food, and words of encouragement. The twins, though initially shy, began to respond, learning that humans could also be gentle and caring. Ivan used these opportunities to teach them about human kindness, about how connection and trust could be restored even after experiences of fear and isolation. School was another challenge. The twins had missed weeks of learning and social interaction, and the idea of joining other children was daunting. Ivan accompanied them during the first days, standing nearby as they met teachers and classmates. Slowly, Alexei and Anya began to engage, answering questions in class, playing with other children during breaks, and sharing stories of their forest adventure when asked. Though they still struggled with shyness and anxiety, their confidence grew each day. Ivan felt proud of their progress, recognizing the remarkable strength it had taken for them to even attempt normal life after surviving in such extreme conditions. Even as they adjusted, memories of the forest remained vivid. Sometimes they would wake at night, whispering about the snow, the darkness, or the silence that had surrounded them. Ivan comforted them, reminding them that they were safe now and that the forest was behind them. He encouraged them to speak about their experiences, helping them process their trauma rather than bury it. Through conversation, storytelling, and gentle reassurance, the twins slowly learned that survival had been real, but life could continue with safety, warmth, and hope. Ivan also made sure the twins understood the lessons of the forest, not as fear, but as wisdom. He taught them how to recognize nature safely, how to respect animals, and how to stay aware of their surroundings. These lessons helped them feel empowered rather than scared. They began to explore the area around their foster home with curiosity, learning to balance caution with confidence. The forest had been both terrifying and magical, and Ivan helped them carry forward its lessons without the constant threat that had once loomed over them. Months passed and the twins grew stronger and more confident. Their laughter became more frequent, their steps steadier, and their interactions with others more natural. Ivan continued to visit, offering guidance, stories, and reassurance. He had become more than a rescuer. He was now a trusted figure in their lives, someone they could rely on for safety, comfort, and understanding. His dedication showed the children that human kindness could be a powerful force, capable of healing wounds that cold, fear, and isolation had left behind. Finally, the day came when the authorities located the twins' family. It was a moment filled with mixed emotions, joy at reunion, relief at resolution, and nostalgia for the bond that had formed with Ivan. The children were hesitant at first, unsure how to navigate these new relationships. Ivan guided them gently, helping them understand that family could be part of their safety network, just as he had been. When they finally reunited with their parents, the scene was emotional, filled with tears, hugs, and whispered reassurances. Alexei and Anya held onto Ivan's hands one last time, thanking him silently for the courage, care, and trust he had given them during their darkest hours. Even after returning to their family, the twins continued to carry lessons from the forest. They were stronger, more resilient, and more aware of the world around them. Ivan remained a mentor and guardian figure in their lives, visiting regularly and helping them integrate fully into normal life. The story of their survival became a symbol in the village, a story of courage, human kindness, and the unbreakable spirit of children. The taiga had tested them to the limit, but it had also revealed their remarkable strength and the power of trust and care. Through it all, Ivan reflected on the journey. The forest, which had once seemed a place of fear and solitude, had become a testament to human resilience. The twins' survival reminded him that even in the harshest conditions, hope, care, and determination could overcome fear and loneliness. The story of Alexei and Anya, once lost in the frozen taiga, had become a story of healing, new beginnings, and the enduring bond between those who protect and those who are protected. The months following their reunion with their family marked a new chapter for Alexei and Anya. Life, which had once been defined by fear, cold, and loneliness in the vast Siberian taiga, now began to unfold with warmth, care, and stability. Their parents, overwhelmed with gratitude and relief, did everything they could to make up for the time the children had spent alone. Yet, despite the comfort of home, Alexei and Anya sometimes found themselves thinking of the forest, the snow, the silent nights, and the strange mix of fear and wonder that had accompanied their survival. Ivan remained a constant presence in their lives. Though he was no longer responsible for rescuing them from immediate danger, he continued to act as their guide and protector. He visited frequently, bringing small gifts, stories of the forest, and words of encouragement. The twins would eagerly run to meet him, a mixture of affection and trust shining in their eyes. Ivan's presence had become a symbol of safety, a bridge connecting the terrifying experience of the taiga with the security of their new life. The bond they had formed in the forest remained unbroken, a quiet reminder of the resilience and courage they had shown. School became an important part of their routine. Initially, Alexei and Anya had been hesitant, unsure how to interact with other children. Yet with Ivan's support and encouragement, they began to participate more confidently. They made friends slowly but surely, sharing small details about their forest adventure and gradually learning to trust others. Their teachers were patient, recognizing the trauma the children had endured, and ensured that they had the support necessary to succeed academically and socially. The twins began to thrive, their laughter returning, their curiosity about the world growing day by day. At home, the twins' lives were filled with routine and comfort, but Ivan encouraged them to explore their surroundings safely. He took them on small walks through nearby forests, teaching them to recognize animal tracks, understand the signs of nature, and appreciate the beauty of the wilderness without fear. These excursions helped the twins reclaim a sense of confidence and freedom. The forest had once been a place of danger, but under Ivan's guidance, it became a classroom, a playground, and a place of learning. They discovered that nature could be both awe-inspiring and safe when approached with knowledge and respect. The twins' recovery was not only physical but emotional. Nightmares and memories of cold, dark nights in the forest persisted, but Ivan helped them process these feelings. He encouraged them to speak openly about their experiences, reassuring them that what they had survived was extraordinary. Through storytelling, conversation, and gentle guidance, the children learned to understand their trauma as part of their personal strength rather than as a permanent scar. Each discussion, each shared memory, became a small step toward healing, replacing fear with understanding and resilience. Over time, Alexei and Anya began to embrace their daily lives fully. They played outside with friends, helped their parents with small chores, and participated in community activities. The local village had grown deeply invested in their well-being, inspired by the story of their survival. People often visited to offer support or simply to meet the children who had braved the Siberian wilderness. The twins' courage became an inspiration to everyone who heard their story, a living example of resilience, hope, and the human spirit's capacity to endure. Despite the new normal, the twins never forgot the man who had rescued them. Ivan's quiet heroism had changed their lives forever. They often reflected on the journey through the taiga, remembering the cold nights, the snow, and the desperation that had once consumed them. Yet alongside those memories was gratitude and admiration for Ivan, whose courage, patience, and compassion had guided them to safety. Their relationship with him was unique, forged under extraordinary circumstances, and it remained a source of comfort, guidance, and inspiration. Ivan, for his part, felt a quiet pride in the twins' progress. He had seen them at their weakest, on the brink of despair, and now he witnessed their transformation into children filled with curiosity, joy, and strength. He often marveled at their resilience, understanding that survival had been a combination of courage, instinct, and the bond they shared with each other. The experience reminded him that even in the harshest environments, human connection and care could triumph over fear, loneliness, and the seemingly impossible. One day, Ivan took the twins back to the edge of the forest where he had first found them. He wanted them to see the place that had tested them so profoundly, but also to understand how far they had come. Alexei and Anya walked carefully, their small hands holding Ivan's, looking around at the familiar snow-covered trees. Memories of the cold nights and desperate cries returned briefly, but Ivan guided them, showing them safe paths and pointing out signs of animals and natural patterns. The forest no longer seemed threatening. It had become a classroom, a place to learn, and a symbol of their courage. Alexei and Anya began to share their experiences with other children, recounting their story in a way that emphasized hope, courage, and the importance of trust. They described how they had relied on each other, how they had endured fear and hunger, and how Ivan's guidance had led them to safety. Their story resonated deeply, inspiring other children and adults alike. They became a living testament to the idea that even in moments of extreme danger and isolation, hope, resilience, and human connection could overcome the odds. Over the years, the twins' bond with Ivan remained strong. They continued to see him regularly, learning from his stories, guidance, and wisdom. Ivan taught them not only about nature and survival, but also about kindness, patience, and the quiet power of courage. The lessons they learned went far beyond survival skills. They were lessons in empathy, resilience, and trust, lessons that would guide them for the rest of their lives. The story of the twins and the ranger spread beyond the village, becoming known in neighboring regions. People admired the courage of the children and the selflessness of Ivan. Newspapers and radio programs shared the tale, highlighting the remarkable survival and the human connections that had saved lives. Ivan, ever modest, rarely spoke about himself, always emphasizing the twins' strength and resilience. For him, the story was never about heroism. It was about the importance of care, patience, and standing with those in need. As Alexei and Anya grew older, they carried with them the lessons and memories of their journey through the taiga. The forest, once a place of fear and loneliness, became a symbol of courage and perseverance. The harsh winters they had endured taught them strength, and their reliance on each other and on Ivan taught them the value of trust and compassion. These lessons shaped their personalities, their relationships, and their outlook on life, making them resilient, thoughtful, and empathetic individuals. Ivan continued to watch over them, not as a rescuer now, but as a mentor and friend. The bond they shared was deep, born of extreme circumstances but strengthened by trust and care. He often reflected on the journey, on the nights spent tracking their cries in the forest, on the moments of fear and exhaustion, and on the joy of seeing them safe and thriving. The experience reinforced his belief in the strength of the human spirit and the transformative power of compassion. In the village, the twins' story became a legend, told and retold as an example of courage, hope, and survival. Children who listened to the story learned about bravery, the importance of family, and the value of kindness. Adults admired the resilience of both the twins and Ivan, seeing in their journey a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, humanity's warmth and care could overcome fear and isolation. The story was more than a tale of survival. It was a testament to the enduring power of hope, courage, and trust. Years later, Alexei and Anya looked back on their experiences with clarity and gratitude. They remembered the fear and loneliness, but also the courage they had discovered within themselves and the compassion they had received from Ivan. Their childhood, once overshadowed by survival, was now filled with opportunities, learning, and growth. The forest, the snow, and the cold would always be a part of their story, but so too would be the warmth, care, and guidance that had saved them. The ranger who had found them in the taiga remained a central figure in their lives, a quiet hero whose actions had changed everything. Ivan's dedication, courage, and patience had not only saved their lives, but it also helped them grow into strong, resilient, and compassionate individuals. Their story was one of transformation, from fear to hope, from loneliness to connection, and from vulnerability to strength. The twins' journey, once filled with cries of desperation in the endless snowy forest, had become a story of courage, trust, and survival. It reminded everyone who heard it that even in the darkest, coldest, and most isolating places, human connection, resilience, and compassion could light a path to safety, warmth, and hope. Ivan's quiet heroism and the children's bravery ensured that their story would never be forgotten, a tale of survival, healing, and the enduring power of care.